I started watching My Little Pony Friendship is Magic a little before Season 4 started, and it ended up being a good series that didn't fall into the stereotypes of what we think of when we think girls' cartoons. It's a smart girls' cartoon, with characters that are realistic for people in this day of age. You have the hard worker, you have the animal lover, you have the creator, you have the partier, you have the sportsman, and you have the researcher. All of which children of all ages can relate to. They don't talk about boys, or going shopping, or cutesy things. They talk about realistic things and break out of the mold. People are drawn to TV series when they are good. If MLP Friendship is Magic was poorly written, with the same type of characters like the original series, the brony fandom would not be a thing. That goes with any TV series. I like the series. I like the brony community, up to a point, but it made me wonder if I was missing out on some of the series that was geared towards girls when I was growing up. So I decided to watch Rainbow Brite. I've seen this series, but I don't remember it. It was on when I was 7 or 8. While girls had My Little Pony and Gem of the Holograms, boys had Transformers and G.I. Joe at the same time, so I preferred them over Rainbow Brite. Again, when you're 7 or 8, girls are icky. It's a funny thing. Going back to the cartoons of your childhood, they are either not as good or better than you remember them. So maybe the same could be said for the old Rainbow Brite cartoons. So I am rewatching them. 13 episodes in a movie later. I made a horrible mistake. I don't know what to make of this. Some parts are good, while some parts are bad. It has some things that I like about Friendship is Magic, like it does not talk about girly things, but that is it! In all honesty, it's not a terrible show. What it does well, it does really well. What it doesn't do well makes the stories really suffer. So I decided to rewatch the updated 2014 version to see if they improved the weaker points of the 1980s version. 3 episodes later, I have no words how much I despise the reboot. I give it this. They fixed some things while creating other problems and ultimately losing the heart of what was the original Rainbow Brite. How do you do that? Before I get into the pros and cons of both series, let's get into the history of Rainbow Brite. Rainbow Brite was introduced to the world in 1983 by Hallmark Cards. The characters of Rainbow Brite was created by a team of Hallmark, which included Hallmark's Vice President of Creative Licensing, Gary Glissmeyer, a team of artists headed by Cheryl Kozat, and writers under the direction of Hallmark's editorial director, Dan Drake. The idea was to break into the licensing market with the creation of characters targeted to children. The original concept of Rainbow Brite was to have her and her friends have the power over nature. However, this evolved her to being responsible for all the colors of the world. Backstories and characters were developed, and the team was ready to roll Rainbow Brite out. But Hallmark needed to get their brand into the public eye. So the development of Rainbow Brite dolls were tasked to Mattel. Dolls possessed by demons who steal your souls if you stare into their eyes. Oh wait, I'm thinking Teddy Ruxpin. I should do a review of that series.
In favor of stopping, raise your hands. The majority rules.
Nope! Not putting myself through that! And finally, a Rainbow Brite TV series was produced. The choice of studio? Deke Animation. Deke Animation has been responsible for shows like Inspector Gadget, the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, Sabrina the Animated Series, and Trolls with a Z. So you know, the quality is a little iffy. An interesting thing about girl-targeted TV series in the 1980s, they seem to start out as a series of specials in a movie before they become a full-fledged series. My Little Pony did this too. In 1984, 1 half-hour and 1 2-part specials aired in syndication. In the spring of 1985, a 2-part origin story aired, followed by a feature-length film, Rainbow Brite and the Star Stealer, that November. Then in June of 1986, 8 new episodes aired in weekly syndication. Was it a hit? Well, they only did produce 13 episodes. And if you know the history of toys and cartoons, if the toys don't sell, your cartoons get stopped. That actually may or may not be the case, as the series continued in reruns in 1987. At the time, Rainbow Brite was all over the place. Toys, coloring books, cereal. There was also a theme park show at the amusement park Worlds of Fun in Kansas City in 1985. They went all out, and all we got was 13 episodes in a movie? Kind of reminds me of when Chuck went off the air and those morons started excessively posting about it on social media. All that posting doesn't matter if we block you, but let's find out why I have a problem with this series. What I tend to look for in a series is character development. Is it good? Do the characters differ from one another? Do they grow? Storytelling. Is the plot good or interesting? Does it hold my attention? Consistency. For the love of God, if you keep changing the aspects of the character throughout the series, adding something or changing something for the sake of the episode plot, you make that choice before you start writing the series as a whole, not in the middle and then forget about it. I had to put up with this a lot when rewatching Rainbow Brite. Now let's be clear, the only reason why the Rainbow Brite cartoon exists at all is to sell toys to little girls. But you still have to engage the audience to buy those toys. You have to get those little girls to bug their parents to get them for them. So here's what they did right and what they did wrong. The point of an introduction episode is to explain the elements and the important plot points about the world around them. If you watch the origin story first, you would have no idea that Rainbow Brite was responsible for the colors of the earth when you get to later episodes. Even when we learn about the color kids and the star sprinkles, we never learn what the star sprinkles are used for in that episode. The color belt itself has worked with or without the use of star sprinkles. Even in the pilot episode, Peril in the Pits, they never explain the mine or the star sprinkles, or even what the colored kids do. We are introduced to this world, but there is no real explanation. We find out in later episodes that color crystals that are mined from the mine are used to make star sprinkles. In the pilot episodes, they say they mine the star sprinkles, not make them from color crystals. That's the whole continuity thing. Now, this is one of the things that the 2014 series got right. In the first episodes, they explained all this. How Rainbow Brite was responsible for the Earth, what the star sprinkles are and what they are used for, and who the color kids are. Now I know it's all exposition, but it saves a lot of guesswork and yelling at the TV with the question, when did they change that? Or when did they decide that? So let's talk about the animation. First off, it was animated by Deke and Tokyo Movie Shisha. Although there are some animation errors and a lot of recycled animation. I wouldn't expect anything less from Deke. Rainbow Brite is in the style of the 1980s that we all got used to. It's stunning. The less said about the animation of the 2014 series, the better. Again, the animation was part of the charm of the original series. The 2014 series changed the style to accommodate the new humor and attitude of the scripts, and it ended up looking like a bad fan project. Now let's look at the characters. It's time to talk about Starlight. Welcome to narcissism in horse form. This guy has an ego to put Rainbow Dash to shame. Let's see some of my favorite Starlight quips.
I'm Starlight, the most wonderful horse in the universe. Of course I can talk. All in a day's work for the magnificent Starlight. It's a good thing I'm so splendidly graceful. Magnificent. I don't know another horse who could have done that. I may be the most magnificent horse in the universe, but I can't fly.
Yeah, that was magnificent.
Yes, wasn't it? I refuse to go around looking like this. Of course I'm going to win. I'm amazed any other horses even bothered to enter. You're not keeping the most magnificent horse in the cave right here.
It's funny at first, but then it starts getting grating on you. This horse can be a stuck-up jerk. In fact, he pushes other characters away because he deems them not good enough. He boasts about himself all the time, and it makes him very unlikable at times. He is also so insecure that if Rainbow Brite rides another horse that isn't him, Starlight gets jealous and runs away and tries to prove himself.
So, she wants to ride a new horse.
Here's the thing. Starlight is one of the few characters on the show with an actual personality. Honestly, Starlight is not my favorite cup of tea. I know the fans like him, but to me he's just yuck. The 2014 version of Starlight, he's actually toned down quite a bit. They end up trying to portray him as some kind of macho horse. It's not horrible, but he tends to be overshadowed by the other characters in the 2014 series.
The magnificent horse, the glory of the galaxy.
The sprites. I I don't like these things. I don't know what it is, but I just don't like them. Especially Tweak the leader, who is white and the only one that can talk. Because of course he is, and of course he can. Why is he the only one that can talk? We find out later in the movie that all the the whitish sprites can talk.
They never even noticed me. Nobody ever notices me.
That right there deserves a facepalm. Tweak fills the role of the complaining coward in this series. Oh, he's brave when he wants to be, but he would rather not be. And for being the leader of these things, he's not very bright. He sold the color crystal mines for a bag of seeds to someone who had a deed of it.
Sign this deed, and I'll have my stuffy old cave, and you'll have the marvelous basket.
That's not how deeds work. Why would a stranger have a deed to a cave that you own? Wouldn't the owners have it? After he sells the cave, Tweak does this horrible feel sorry for me look. The thing is, Tweak was not the only one at fault here, and he is self-punishing himself when not a single person is blaming him. The other sprites, much like the doozers from Fraggle Rock, are just there and have no real purpose other than slave labor and tattling on Murky and Lurky, the main villains. They speak gibberish, but everyone understands them, and the sprites even understand English, which means they don't need to speak gibberish. In the 2014 version, the sprites, including Twink, Mr. Glitters, because if you Google the name Twink, you'll get something interesting, only speak in gibberish. They are also comic relief. They aren't funny. In fact, they have no real purpose in the 2014 series other than being hyperactive for some reason. The Color Kids. What can we say about the Color Kids? There's toys of them, unlike a character I'm going to bring up later. The show didn't develop character traits or personalities for them, with the exception of characters like Stormy or Moonglow, who were introduced later on in the series. We know little to nothing about these characters. I found on RainbowBrite.net full descriptions of the Color Kids' personalities. I'll read some of them off to you. Lala Orange. Lala is very sweet, frilly, and feminine. She can be often found primping and preening until she looks, as she puts it, just so. She is a vivacious and energetic girl who knows exactly what she wants, and she usually gets it. Though she can be a little pushy and overbearing at times, she means well. Lala is quite flirtatious, especially to Red Butler, on whom she has a giant crush. My word, that has rarity from My Little Pony Friendship and Magic written all over it. Canary Yellow. Canary is always sunny and cheerful, a typical girl next door. She is the optimist of the group, and is consumed with the need to cheer everybody up and make them smile. She is somewhat naive, which makes her easy game for Murky Dismal. She is the one color kid who gets caught most of the time. Canary is Rainbow Brite's favorite color kids because yellow is the color of cheerfulness. Pinkie Pie, anyone? You have Patty O'Green the prankster, Buddy Blue the athlete who should never talk.
Hey, everybody ready? Go!
What did he do? Eat Charlie Brown's parents or teacher? Indigo the actress, Red Butler the smooth talker, and then there is Shy Violet, the one we actually get to know. Sort of. She's the smart one, because she wears glasses. And she isn't very shy. You know, none of this is current information or some fan fiction. This all came out at the same time the show came out, but not in the show. It's from a coloring book for Rainbow Brite called Who's Who. Why do we need a coloring book to let us know who these characters are? Why didn't the show do this itself? Oh, that's right. It was focusing on an outside character that doesn't have toys. The 2014 series didn't do any better with the Color Kids. We don't know who they are, and the only information about them comes from a Rainbow Brite Facebook or DeviantArt page.
Into the cage!
Why not?
Brian. Now we get to the vein of most toyetic cartoons. The unnecessary human. You know, the character that the kids are supposed to relate to because he is the human outsider entering into a world of unknown. Like the show's audiences. Far too many cartoons do this. Transformers, the original My Little Pony, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Gummy Bears. For crying out loud, the Smurfs even did it. The problem with introducing an unnecessary human is it takes away from the characters the show should be focusing on. The ones with the toys. In Rainbow Brite's case, the Color Kids. But what can we say about the show's human, Brian? Well, I guess he's supposed to be Rainbow Brite's love interest. He feels like he has to prove something to Rainbow Brite, and he competes with Red Butler for Rainbow's attention. Color Kid development alert! Of course he messes up, because that's what unnecessary humans do. Then he makes up for his mistakes because that's what unnecessary humans do. And then Brian and Red Butler make up. Because, again, you know the drill. In the end, there's no real point to him other than he's just there. He's not important to the story, and not really important to Rainbow Brite at all. In fact, he was only used for the first 3 episodes, and then, starting with the movie, he was just regulated to staring out the window at the sky, longing for Rainbow Brite to save the Earth.
Rainbow, you've got to do something.
That is how important Brian is. We lost the character development of other characters thanks to this kid. Now, the Brian in the 2014 version is very important to the story. It involves his family history and who he is. If I have to describe Brian's personality, then I have 6 words for you. Star versus the forces of evil. I'm not kidding with this. Brian and Marco Diaz are the same characters. His reactions, his support, they're all the same. Don't get me wrong though. The Brian in the 2014 version is better, but he still takes away from the development of other characters. I still think of Marco when I watch this version.
Well, I guess I'm in on this too.
The villains. The villains are hands down the most developed characters in the entire series. Well, not the Lord of Darkness. The princess, yes. She's a spoiled brat who's used to getting anything she wants, and she does it through magic.
Children never bring good presents.
What does Tickled Pink do? Oh wait, we don't know. Supposedly she's a human that loved Rainbow Land so much that she didn't leave. Found that on a book. Why do villains have more development in the series than the regular cast does? Well, you do have the monster Murk, but he's just some random monster. But then you have Murky and Lurky. Here are the 2 best characters in the series. They are the most likable and, for crying out loud, the most developed characters. The villains! The villains are the most developed characters. Even more so than the main character. Murky even has the best backstory of any villain ever seen. When he was a kid, he made a horrible mess with crayons. Like all kids do. You know, coloring on the walls and such. Murky's mom, of course, gets mad and demands him to clean up all the colors off the wall.
I'm going to get rid of every bit of that color if it takes you all day! If it takes you the rest of your life! The rest of your life!
Murky takes this to heart and grows up wanting to clean up all the colors in the world. That has got to be the funniest backstory of a villain ever. Murky's motivation is kind of dumb. I mean, I hate colors is kind of not really a good reason to be evil.
When I'm finished, there won't be a rainbow land or rainbows.
Now, if we're talking about Murky and Lurky, we also have to talk about one of the biggest problems with them. Here they are lurking in some bushes, spying on the color kids. But wait, something is missing. There he is! Yeah, we can't really escape the fact that Murky is an old man who spies on and kidnaps children on a constant basis. If the show was made today, I'm not sure how well it would fly with parents. But wait, there is some new information.
Make out what's inside, but it looks like Murky's Monstro Murk. It still exists? It's been over 700 years since it tried to destroy Rainbow Land.
Then that means the color kids aren't kids at all. That means Rainbow Brite and the kids are over 700 years old. And now he leaves. Really? It has to do with their actual age, not looks? Oh, and now we have a 10-year-old boy flirting with a 700-year-old woman. This show has suddenly gone beyond creepy. Murky and Lurky are the comic relief villains, which are established early in the series. And again, they are the most entertaining part of Rainbow Brite. But they can be very threatening as well. At times, Lurky and Murky do act like underlings for a more serious evil. The princess, the monster Murk, the guy in the cloak who is apparently called the Lord of Darkness. I'm not sure what Lurky's deal is. Was he so clumsy that he was an outcasted sprite and Murky took him in? Lurky doesn't seem evil. He likes colors. He likes being around them. So maybe he does what he does because of Murky's influence. Then again, Murky does accept Lurky as he is. Flaws and all. The two are perfect for each other, but he is fun to watch. There are flaws with Murky and Lurky. Mainly they are outnumbered all the time. Seriously, just gang up on them, color kids. Sprites, don't run away! For crying out loud, these guys are worse than the Smurfs. Honestly, the villains of the series do not feel like a serious threat because of how goofy they are. In the 2014 series, however, the Dark Princess feels like a legitimate threat. Not goofy, not a joke character, but you feel the hate and madness. Murky and Lurky are reduced to henchmen. Not really funny henchmen.
Rainbow Brite has a new best friend.
I mean, what is that? What made these characters who they are do not really shine in this series? Well, the third episode got Murky right anyway. Going back to Star vs. the Forces of Evil, the character Ludo could be a close tribute to the original Murky Dismal.
Get even with you yet, Rainbow Brite.
Now we get to the main character of the show, Rainbow Brite. What can I say about Rainbow Brite? She's a character with determined will and courage and is never ever wrong, or at fault, or does anything bad. Mary Poppins, tell it like it is. She is
perfect in every way.
And there you go. Rainbow Brite is the quintessential Mary Sue. If it wasn't for the fact that the other color kids were pushed back in character development, she would be the most boring character in the series. Seriously, when does she ever do wrong? The color kids look up to her so badly that they can't think for themselves. There was one point where a fake Rainbow Brite tells the color kids to do something that was wrong, and they do it anyway, just because Rainbow Brite said so.
Rainbow is always right.
This is the biggest problem with the series. You have a main character that does no wrong. Because of this, she's boring. She should be like current female main characters, learning from her friends and not the one always fixing things. Let her have problems. Let her have mistakes she can learn from. There is so much potential in this series, and it would have been so much better if they humanized Rainbow Brite and add depth to her character. Her best episode is the birth of Rainbow Land. We get to see Rainbow Brite's goals. We saw her struggles and emotions. Sad to say, what made the series good are the episodes focused on Murky and Lurky as the main characters. It's kind of the reason why I got bored watching the movie. If I could compare The Star Stealer to another movie that had a close enough plot, Lupin III, Castle of Cagliostro, you could see the differences in the main characters. Lupin III is a charismatic, determined, goal-set ladies' man with a sense of humor. Rainbow Brite is just determined. No other personality other than she's just there. By the way, I do like the birth of Rainbow Land more than the movie. It was more interesting and moved a lot quicker. I have a lot more issues with the movie, mostly the character Chris, but later on that. By the way, I love the name Wisp that Rainbow had before. I wish they did not change it. Now for the 2014 series. For all the things it did right, nothing overshadowed what the 2014 series did wrong. Make an extremely unlikable main character. Introducing millennial buzzword Rainbow Brite. I'm not kidding with this. From the moment she appeared on the opening credits shooting at nothing, to the first minute she's introduced to the story and started talking, I wanted to punch her.
Rainbow Land! Isn't it rad? OMB, oh my goes, totally forgot to introduce myself. Rude. I'm Rainbow Brite. And you are?
Brian?
Brian! Brian! Whoa! My new best friend, Brian! Bestie Brian! Old pal Brian! RP and the B-Man! Color me popped!
The original Rainbow Brite might have been dull, but at least she was timeless and had charm. This monstrosity was a soulless husk that was put together by a corporate chart.
I wonder what Murky's after this time.
Your magic belt!
Yeah!
And let you use it to make the world unhappy and mean like you? No way, Murky!
Yeah!
Now, I've talked about the Star Stealer movie before and some of its flaws. There's not enough Murky and Lurky in it dragging on. I do admit that I like the princess and her antics, and some of the action scenes are decent. But all of that is ruined with the introduction of Chris. First off, if you're going to have both Chris and Brian in the same movie, make sure you have the characters sound different from each other. Second off, since he's a boy in a girl's movie, you get the dreaded I'm better than any girl character.
This is what you call help? A girl? And you bring me a girl? I'm braver than any girl. I can do anything you can! How dumb can a girl get?
I can tell you right now, in my childhood, this was never a thing. Oh sure, we mocked each other if a girl beats up a boy or a girl outdoes a boy, but that's pretty much it. You know who talks like Chris does? Adults do. They put their own mentality in a child character because they think, hey, this is how children act. The worst episodes of a children's cartoon are the ones who uses this cliche. The movie is no exception. It's kind of funny, really. The current cartoons that are avoiding and mocking this cliche are the ones directed by women. So why is the original series so popular still today? Since the series did last only 13 episodes in a movie, and most of the main cast isn't that great, then why is this series fondly remembered? Why do I like this show more than I care to admit? Well, the origin story, despite its flaws, is interesting. The whole concept is interesting. Yes, the whole not establishing characters and concepts does hurt the series. But to be honest, I really enjoyed Murky and Lurky and would probably watch this show simply for them. I can't speak for others, but that is why I enjoy the original series. In the end, I don't think it was the lack of ratings or toy sales that did the show in. After all, the show was in reruns for the rest of 1986 and all of 1987. It was the choice of Hallmark or Deke that killed the show. After all, the intent was to use the series as one big commercial to sell toys and products. Since it did its job, there was no reason to produce any more cartoons. If the series had more episodes, the series might have focused more on the color kids to the point where we got to know them. Perhaps we might get an episode where Rainbow was not the perfect little girl. But all those are ifs and buts. We can speculate all we want, but it won't matter. As for millennial buzzword Rainbow Brite, it does fix some of the problems, but not enough to call it good. The high points are Brian, the Dark Princess, and Stormy. The low point is everything else. The series tries too hard to be current and hip and suffers because of it. Part of the charm of Steven Universe, Gravity Falls, and My Little Pony Friendship is Magic is they don't try to be hip or cool. This is the reason why shows like the 2016 Powerpuff Girls will always be outshadowed by the original. Millennial buzzword Rainbow Brite is ADHD the moment we start. Even the theme song is ADHD, with Rainbow doing nothing but shooting at things. Now here's the thing about millennial buzzword Rainbow Brite. It was regulated to an online website, Feelin', not a children's network. That means the only people who would be seeing this series at all would be people who are nostalgic for the original. And people like me who do reviews. Which means the people who this new improved Rainbow Brite is geared towards aren't going to watch it. And the people who did watch it do not have a connection with the series' main characters, therefore hate it. This is a big mistake. While Rainbow Brite is not perfect, and not something I would return to anytime soon, there is a fan base for it. One thing I won't do is criticize people for something that I am simply okay with. People are free to like what they like, and who am I to say that they're wrong? I know I like shows that people don't like. Hopefully we will get a person who cares enough about the original series and sees what could have been with it, that we could get a true successor to it. Not millennial buzzword Rainbow Brite. Thanks for watching. Hey everyone! There was so much to talk about this series that I needed to do a separate video on it. A 2-Amp Snarks commentary on some of the most odd and outrageous parts of the original Rainbow Brite. Hope to see you there. I think I'm missing something.
Ready, Starlight? Of course you are. Thank you, Twinkle.
Let's just pretend that doesn't exist.